So anger, it's bad, it's wrong, it's destructive, it hurts others, it leads us to be rejected, it disconnects. And our little baby, which we used to love and adore, is suddenly turning into a monster of hell, chucking itself across supermarket floors, bringing shame upon the family. And it's on us to do something about it. So what do we do? And what's really going on? So it could be that the child is born innocent and sweet in this world, and all that's happening is that now and again they have pain in the belly, or difficulty sleeping, or teething, and we do everything we can to make it okay for them. But then at a certain moment, a psychological distress starts to show up. Our child moves from the awful ones into the terrible twos, and this toddler is making our life a misery. It's a terrorist toddler. What's going on? How did this baby that we love so much, this angel, become a demon? Could it be that anger has some part to play, and that our attitude towards anger is playing a role? So let's go back, go back, go back. Some babies are born within an ocean of rage. They scream outward into the light in a sheer sensation of pain. The light is too vulgar. The interruption from the comfort of the womb is too sudden. The sounds of the surgical environment are too loud and clashing. And from the instincts of their body, there is this fight back, like a beast crying in pain. And we run to them and we bring them comfort and we bring them compassion and we hold them and we do what we can to reunite them as soon as possible with a sense of well-being. But later on, when our baby has got walking around a little bit, got a little bit of mind of its own, but is still open to the energies and stresses of the environment, this cry of pain shows up in fits of anger, moments of overwhelm. The baby goes to pieces, and the only thing that is holding him or her together is this rage, holding on to the separate will in order to be here. And often, this is the place where we ourselves were most deeply rejected, where we were formed in our relation with our own instinctive body. And our first fear then is that this will mean that the baby, and God forbid ourselves, will be rejected. And it doesn't help that baby chooses the key times to do that. At the coffee morning with the in-laws, in the supermarket when everybody's standing in line, on the airplane on the international journey. That in that moment, baby starts to have a tantrum, a rage tantrum. We no longer respond to it as an outpouring of pain. Now we respond to it as an attack on all is well. And we feel an incredible pressure and guilt that we have to somehow take responsibility for this evil form of nature coming through the baby's instinctive body, which is setting a boundary, which is embodying the energies of the environment, which is crying out from a place of overwhelm or overload or sensory distress. So now we've got the angry baby, and angry faces are looking at us because we have an angry baby and we're not okay. So immediately the baby is not okay. And behind this, the whole of true nature is in the balance. Is true nature, our true nature, wild, destructive, vicious, hurting, wanting harm? Is this our true nature? Or is our true nature compassionate, caring, kind, seeking the purity of authentic, valid connection? Is our true nature freedom? Or is our true nature something which in its freedom becomes wild and dangerous and has to be controlled? It's a spiritual crisis embodied in a little 2-year-old monster who's screaming because he wants things his way and not the other way, my way or the highway. We've got a crisis. We've got a crisis within ourselves and a crisis with the child. We are ashamed. We feel guilty. We fear rejection. We're getting rejection. It's all because of the child. We partly reject the child. We reject the communication which is coming through the child. We break connection. We ally with all the people in the supermarkets who are like looking at us with scorn, like, don't you see, he's hungry, do this, do that, do the other. We're on their side, and we forsake our own baby. But the baby before that was already feeling forsaken in an overwhelm of sensory overload, being dragged from place to place to place, disconnected, objectified. And at a certain moment, this reaches a critical level where the baby is screaming, I exist. I have a will. I will do as I will. I am not an object. I am not able to process the amount of stress and dissociative energies in the environment. I will come home. The horrible thing is that this is criminalized so rapidly, demonified even, so rapidly that the child eventually, one way or another, splits off from themselves, birthing a shadow belief, I am wrong to my core. I am the evil one if I'm not in control. If I don't make an effort, I will be bad. Anger is to be feared. My will is no will. I don't deserve anything different. So maybe you remember, maybe as a 5-year-old, 4-year-old, maybe as a 3-year-old, maybe even as a 2-year-old or a 1-year-old. Maybe you can recall how it was to be a child experiencing such a tantrum. What did that feel like for you? What was really going on? What was behind this rage, this destruction, this need to do harm? What was happening inside of you? Where were you? So often what we can find is pure distress. The distress like a newborn baby, only now it's a psychological distress. The distress of a newborn psychology, the distress of a newborn individual who is unable to find form, unable to keep up, unable to stay in their own center, who really needs some time and some space to reconnect with who they really are, what they really are, what's nurturing and good for them in that moment. And so I hear the voice of protest. What about boundaries? The child, the baby needs boundaries. Of course, the child, the baby needs boundaries. This is their boundary. Our naturalness, our instinctive body, our ability to allow the uprising of anger is the most natural boundary setter, the creation of space in order that our true nature can manifest, which is the greatest boundary of all, being here, manifest, substantial, existing, as if we really mattered, which we do. And funnily enough, our baby matters, our toddler matters, our 3-year-old matters, our angry teenager matters, and their anger matters. So often the conversation about boundaries is we put boundaries to the boundaries in the other. So when the baby gets angry, the mother or father or caretaker fights anger with anger, puts a boundary which overrides their boundary. This is not teaching boundaries, it's teaching the loss of boundaries. To really open up the sense of boundaries, it's necessary to respect also the boundaries in the other, even if they're only 2 years old. In terms of parenting, of course, we're allowed to also put boundaries. We put boundaries to protect our child from danger, from hurting others. We put boundaries on behalf of the well-being of our child. We do not put boundaries against our child as if our child were a curse or the enemy or the vessel of all the family shame. So sometimes when your baby's tantruming in the middle of a supermarket, what's needed is to leave the trolley, Leave the scorning people behind. Pick up your baby, hold him or her close. Carry them to a safe place like the car. Put them first. Connect with them. Respect their needs. Study their sensitivity in such a way that their sensitivity can become their strength, not their curse, in order to allow maybe a gentler pacing into the wilderness of supermarket shopping, or into the wilderness of falsity and ego, which can be there in some stressed family occasions. To put the child first, to connect with them from the inside out, to replace yourself in their point of view, and without changing a thing, just to be there, be on their side. It's outrageous, and if you are outraged, you're fully allowed to feel that. It's a healing anger which is arising. With the mind threatening all kinds of consequences, okay, then we will just destroy each other, then everyone will just do what they want, and then education all falls to pieces. Let those threats reverberate through the psyche and return again and again to your direct experience as a child. You were in distress and you were left alone and you were demonified. Be there with compassion for that space within yourself now that you are able. Out of this inner work, a spaciousness appears where we restore a little bit of our instinctive, authentic humanity. And maybe we restore a little bit of our care, which is free now to show up in an empowered way, to put boundaries to cruelty, to harm, to confusion, in such a way that it's possible to stay in connection with inherent well-being. This adult world is an alien place, and it's an alienating place. Nobody's saying what they feel. There's a dissonance between what's being felt and what's being spoken. The facial expressions are not expressing what's really going on inside. There's a lot of pretending, a lot of energy of lie. There's a building up of stress, an energy of dissociation, a kind of fragmentation, and a feeling of forsakenness and loneliness in the background, which is leaving the child in a wilderness inside themselves, as if they're lost in some kind of strange bardo place called human social life. In this, the battle cry back to center can be the most shamanistic healing maneuver. Our son, you'd take him into a shop here in Israel. He was 1 year old. He would take in the energy. I remember in a pharmacy, he would take in the energy, that kind of subdued health fear, vanity, cosmetic energy inside a pharmacy. We take him in there, and one time he's in there and he looks around and then he screams a battle cry. The whole shop shakes. Everybody wakes up. They think it's a bomb. They think it's a terror attack. They don't know what's going on. And then they see this cute little blonde-haired baby with joy in its eyes. And everybody came back to center, and something released in laughter, true nature, forgiveness, togetherness. Anything is possible. So the toddler in me greets the toddler in you.